As if Trump isn't already in court enough, he has filed a defamation suit against ABC host George Stephanopoulos. And just like his other lawsuits in which he is the defendant, this one he's not expected to win either. Trump is suing George Stephanopoulos because he called Trump a rapist in reference to his relationship with E. Jean Carroll. Trump thinks it's bad for his brand to be associated with that word, so he is saying that this is defamation. But in order for something to be defamatory, it's supposed to be untrue. Problem is, the judge has already said that it is true. Trump did quote-unquote rape E. Jean Carroll, according to Judge Kaplan.
Congressman, thanks for joining us this morning. You've endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and two separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape. How do you square your endorsement of Donald Trump with the testimony we just saw?
Well, I will tell you, I was raped at the age of 16. And any rape victim will tell you, I've lived for 30 years with an incredible amount of shame over being raped. I didn't come forward because of that judgment and shame that I felt. And it's a shame that you will never feel, George. And I'm not going to sit here on your show and be asked a question meant to shame me.
Has been indicted more times than elected and is currently in trial for 91 felony charges. And that's after being ordered to pay $83 million after a jury of his peers decided he was a rapist. That's the leader of the Republican Party.
And I'm sure that in Stephanopoulos' defense, he will remind everyone involved of exactly that. He's been in the game long enough. He knows what he's doing as a journalist. So you have to wonder why Trump would even bother with something like this at all. For one, it's costing him money to file this lawsuit, money that he does not have. He owes hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees, and he is desperate for campaign cash. He just posted a $91 million bond in the E. Jean Carroll case, and he's currently working to secure another bond worth nearly $500 million. Naturally, there are plenty of questions as to where Trump is sourcing his money from. Trump's former personal attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen, has said that it's very possible that Trump is getting money from foreign governments. That means he's potentially beholden to foreign governments, and that is not a great thing for a potential president to potentially be. Second, he's highly unlikely to win this lawsuit against Stephanopoulos for reasons already mentioned. And third, this will only earn him more press in which his name will be mentioned in the same sentence or the same headline as the word rapist. So in his apparent effort to distance himself from that word, he's doing the exact opposite. The only reason that I can think of that Trump would want to pursue this course of action is for branding purposes. He's got to show his MAGA base that he's the tough guy that they think he is. He needs to show them that he's willing to be able to fight back against just one of the many injustices being lobbed against him. He needs to prove that at least he believes that he did not rape E. Jean Carroll, even though the details of his encounter with her have already come under legal and public scrutiny. And now, like in this video, people are only going to talk about it more and more. If his goal was to see something die down in the media, this is a very ineffective way of achieving that goal. A former Hunter Biden associate is suing Fox News host Jessica Tarlo for defamation in a $30 million lawsuit.
Is it the LLC that your attorney works for?
I believe so, yes.
You believe so, okay. So at this point in time, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a document indicating that the law firm representing Tony Bobulinski was paid $10,000 as recently as January of this year by the Save America PAC, which you may recognize as Donald Trump's PAC.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, so far in this hearing, it has felt like the worst episode of The Apprentice. I'm sure you're familiar with that show.
Tony Bobulinski filed suit against Tarlo, claiming that she lied when she said on Fox News that Bobulinski's legal fees were being paid by a Trump super PAC. At the time, Tarlo received a letter from Bobulinski's attorney demanding a public retraction and apology, and the next day she corrected her statement.
I would like to clarify a comment I made yesterday during our discussion of Tony Bobulinski's appearance at the congressional hearing. During an exchange with my colleagues about the hearing, I said that Mr. Bobulinski's lawyer's fees have been paid by a Trump super PAC as recently as January. What was actually said during the hearing was that the law firm representing Mr. Bobulinski was paid by a Trump PAC. I have seen no indication those payments were made in connection with Mr. Bobulinski's legal fees, and he denies that they were.
So she didn't technically retract her original statement, just clarified the reporting, and she certainly did not apologize to Bobulinski at any point. Still, her network backed her up. A Fox News spokesperson said in a statement, quote, Jessica Tarlov's March 21st statements were accurate and made clear that she was not aware of anything to indicate that payments from a Trump PAC to Elections LLC were made in connection with Tony Bobulinski's legal fees. We stand by our decision to not issue any further corrections and will vigorously defend against these inaccurate claims. Bobulinski is still moving forward with the lawsuit, with his lawyers insisting that the statement issued was not good enough and that the original statements were made in an effort to defame Bobulinski in exchange for better media ratings.
I want to be clear that when we were behind closed doors, you called a number of people liars. You called the Wall Street Journal liars. You called Cassidy Hutchinson a liar. You called the FBI a liar. You called Rob Walker a liar. You called James Gilliar a liar. You called Hunter Biden a liar. You called Jim Biden a liar. And just today, you added to your list, you called my colleague, Congressman Mr. Goldman, a liar as well. It seems like, according to you, the only person that's telling the truth is you and everyone else is lying.
Tarlov, by the way, is on the Fox News show The Five. And of the show's 5 co-hosts, she is the most liberal, left-leaning one. She's kind of there for balance. And we've covered Tony Bobulinski here before. I believe it was back in February. But I wouldn't fault you for not remembering who he is or why he kind of matters. So here's a quick refresher. Bobulinski was the guy who James Comer thought was going to be the key witness in the Joe Biden impeachment effort. He was a business associate of Hunter Biden's, and his testimony was supposed to tie up all of Comer's loose impeachment ends. Remember also that the impeachment efforts hinge entirely on somehow linking President Biden to his son Hunter Biden's business dealings so that Republicans could prove that the president, who according to them has dementia, is the head of a notorious crime family. So Comer struggled for so long to find a witness to offer the very specific testimony that he was looking for. So when he finally found Bobulinski, he had to go out of his way to convince people that Bobulinski was a credible witness. Also, by the way, there was no evidence backing up any of Bobulinski's claims, so his word was all that Comer had. So Comer said publicly that Bobulinski was, quote, the one solid guy that tried to do the right thing and was honest. It's like, show me, don't tell me, right? Of course, he wasn't as pristine and clean as Comer would have liked us all to believe, because after a bit of digging, Bobulinski was linked to Russian billionaire Viktor Vekselberg. Vekselberg was involved with the 2017 Russian/Putin plot to bribe the then American President Donald Trump to look the other way with $500,000 whenever Putin would decide to invade Ukraine. Vekselberg is also said to have been involved in the Russian plot to influence the 2016 American election in favor of Donald Trump. Anyway, when Bobulinski finally testified in front of the House Oversight Committee, Democratic Representative Jamie Raskin, who is on the House Oversight Committee, wrote a 9-page letter to Bobulinski's attorney and James Comer that the interview was, quote, chaotic to the point of burlesque as he repeatedly yelled, shouted, filibustered, and hurled outlandish and baseless accusations and insults against Democratic members and staff. During his testimony, Bobulinski also acknowledged his ties to Trump and the Trump campaign, proving himself to not be as credible a witness as Comer would have liked us all to believe. And now, to bring it all back around, Bobulinski is suing Jessica Tarlov for suggesting he has ties to a Trump super PAC, which calls his credibility and reliability as an anti-Biden witness into question. For his part, Bobulinski has said, quote, this is about the truth, for which I have been fighting for 4 years. It is important for media personalities like Ms. Tarlov to understand that lies have consequences. I have consistently told the truth to the American people about the deep corruption of the Biden family and will continue to do, and I have paid my legal expenses arising from my decision to come forward out of my own pocket. I will donate every penny I may be awarded in this suit to a children's hospital and to support our military veterans. Again, just to reiterate, Bobulinski's so-called truth about the so-called deep corruption of the Biden family is not backed up by any actual evidence, just his word. So he and his word need to be publicly perceived as credible and reliable. And Bobulinski's word is all Comer has to use against Biden even now. Just last month in March, Comer suggested that the president lied when he said he wasn't involved in his son's business dealings, and the only evidence Comer provided for his claim that the president lied was Bobulinski's testimony saying, yes, Biden was involved. He referred to this discrepancy between the two testimonies as, quote, the yawning gap between Biden's public statements and the evidence assembled by the committee. However, as Ian Sams, the White House spokesperson for oversight and investigation, said in a post on X, quote, Comer knows 20 plus witnesses have testified that POTUS did nothing wrong. He knows that the hundreds of thousands of pages of records he received have refuted his false allegations. So best of luck to Jessica Tarlov in her defamation suit against people who definitely, probably don't lie or intentionally mislead people ever.